Greetings, dear ones, I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. We sit in a grand place. And before we begin, we wish to honor what has happened in here through the ages. All of the programs, not just those which you would claim to be spiritual. The ones where dancing occurred, music, worship. This stays in these places, dear ones, and helps to build a confluence of energy that helps those who would come for the next one. We normally say at this time in a first channel that there are those who would doubt that this is real. There always are. But we wish to move past that now and say to you who are before me and listening, this is a special time. What makes it special is that the energy, since this shift, is starting to become personal. How many of you were taught that God knows your name? Or knows how many hairs are on your head? And still, you remain apart from God. You say, oh, how nice that God knows me so well. Not understanding the real message. That you are part of the Creator. That is why you are known. This is not in 3 dimensions, dear ones. It's not in linear thinking. It's not who you are. When you start to try to analyze the face of God, you realize there's no face. There can't be a face. The Creator of the universe, the one who created love itself, has no human face. What is the constitution of God? There isn't one. When the nature lover hugs a tree and the tree hugs them back, they feel Gaia. They feel the beauty of the planet as it hugs them back and fills them with love. And so how is it that you imagine Spirit? The 4 channelings today, I want to create one theme. And that is from the standpoint of the Creator. How does the Creator deal with you? Now, in order to really understand this, human beings, you have to know that you really do have free choice. You have free choice not to believe anything that's happening on this stage. You have free choice not to feel the entourage that is here who knows you. You have free choice to ignore the hands that are out, literally from the creative source, that said, aren't you tired of the problem that you brought here today? And you're free to ignore all of it. You're free to turn this down. That's free choice. You're also free to look and say, is it possible that Spirit is bigger than anything I've been told? Is it possible that I was born magnificent and that all of this time I really didn't know it? How do I tell you this? Spirit does not necessarily have a personality. God does not have that which is human. But what God does have is love, compassion, more than you've ever felt, more than you know. A direct link to you. That's what you feel. We've expressed this before. But what about the human being who has free choice? Does that mean that God then steps back and then lets you discover things? Or is there a bias in love? Is it possible that what you conceive as spirit or God is biased in love and doesn't necessarily step back and let you do whatever in free choice, but is always hovering there? And that's what we want to tell you. That's the hovering God. That's the one that lets you have free choice, but is right there in case you make decisions. So let's talk about that. Is it possible that God creates situations that might make you look? Now let's get the terminology right. There are those who say, I awakened. Others who would say, I was in black and white and I discovered color. That's the difference between walking around in a three-dimensional world with no concept of that which is multidimensional or that which is God, and one who has made that leap of faith and opened the box and said, is there more? Show me. The ones who are here today, sitting in the chairs, in a vast majority, are the ones who are beginning to ask the questions. There are a few here just to look. There's no judgment of any of that. But here's what I want to tell you. Number one, God is so aware of you. And the bias is this, that all around you are signals and situations, if you want to look. You don't look upon a blank slate. You look upon love and compassion. It's almost like the entourage of the angels that walk with you are always waiting for you to look. To ask that question inside, is it possible that there's more to life than I was told? Is it possible that I am actually part of something bigger? Is it possible that I don't die, that my soul continues, that only the biology dies? Is it possible that there's a plan for that soul? Not judgment, a plan. It's different. A plan that continues, perhaps even returns to the planet with new biology. That is what has been taught, even from the ancients, thousands of years ago, that indeed there is a cycle of life, a return. It's not new. Do you think it's possible? And if so, the big question, why am I here? If any of you have ever started that quest, I'll tell you, you got an immediate response, because that's what we wait for. You don't stand in a blank slate when you start asking these questions. There is a saturation of joy and love around you that says, you're looking, you're looking, you're looking. And the next thing, number two, we do is make sure you get a reaction. Make sure that there is something for you to feel or see in your own way. For my partner as an engineer, it's almost like we tricked him. We gave him a puzzle in life he could not figure out with a calculator. And he had to turn and ask the question, who are you? What's next? Is it real? And that created something he needed. And we filled him through so many chairs and events with emotion. It almost seemed like every time he sat down, he was overwhelmed with emotion. This is what he needed. The engineer, that's what he needed. And every single one of you is special and unique and needs whatever it is to prove God is real in your life. And some of you who are sensitive, you can feel it right now. You can feel this dripping with truth. That God is real. God knows you. God is not a judging God, but a beautiful, serene, compassionate, pure love God that wants nothing more than you awaken into your own truth of magnificence and understand you are part of the system. You're not apart from the system. You are a part of the system. And that makes you part of all that is, which is the creation of the universe. Once you start awakening to that, the next step, you want to know what Spirit does? We're hovering. What is going to prove it? Let's give them some synchronicities that they can't deny. Let's make things happen that they'll look at and go, wow, what a coincidence. And then it'll happen again, and they'll say, what a coincidence. And then it'll happen again, and they'll say, what a coincidence. And pretty soon they'll say, this is not a coincidence. And some of you needed to see that. You see, I know who's here. There's 4 of you here who needed to have a healing for you to believe in what I'm talking about. And that'll do it, won't it? When you'll turn inward and ask the questions, dear God, is there a God? Do you love me? Well, then why not this healing? And you got it. 4 of you here. Maybe not in that exact way, but you know what I'm talking about. And you needed to see that, and you'll never return to disbelief, ever. Because you saw it work. You saw it work. There are others who come to this room to leave their burdens here, and that worked. Did you know it doesn't matter what building you're in or if you're in a field? It doesn't matter how you're dressed or where you are. If you ask the right question, Spirit is there. Because you carry with you a piece of the creation. You can't hide from it. You can't be alone. And so that's the second attribute. That on our side of the veil, not only do we make it easy for you to look if you were to ask the question with free choice, but we also fill the cup. We start to fill the cup because you start understanding how it works. And the third part is we try to make it so you're never alone, and you know it, and you know it, and you know it. So that any time you start doubting and go to your knees or stand up and reach to the sky, you're going to feel us. Because you're starting to cross that bridge. Those are the 3 elements I want to tell you right now about Spirit and you. We'll start talking about more in just a moment. It doesn't give us a face. It doesn't give God a face, does it? But it gives it a feeling. A feeling of forever. Oh, if you could know who you really are, how long you've been here, how many times you've been here. This is an awakening time. Everything is cooperating with you. We need you, old soul. We need you to move into that next phase of belief, where you can walk out of here and feel peaceful about your life. Treat people differently. Start to have a countenance that doesn't match the situation. People will say, why are you so peaceful? What's going on? That's coming. That's it for now. Oh, we're not done. 3 more times tonight we come to you. And the entourage will assemble, and we will speak yet again of the glory of the human being and the relationship to the Creator itself. Do you believe it? And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. So the series continues. How can I give you a perspective on what it is like from this side of the veil with human beings that we love so much. First, let's identify who you are. The biology that you see in the mirror is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a soul. And that's a word that you made up. It's a word that is less than what it really is. For the soul is the spark of God that is eternal, that has always been in this you call the universe, and before, and will always be. Have you ever thought of that you are eternal? Perhaps not the you that has your earth name and your earth face, but the spark. Almost every one of you has the ability to think for a moment, when you take your last breath, is it really done? Or do you intuitively feel that there is an afterlife, a life beyond the life, beyond the life? And you keep on going at some level. It's not the end. And if that's your intuition, you'd be right. That's who you are. Now, the planet is filled with humans with free choice and a veil. The veil is that between us and you, which must exist for you to have the free choice. A question was once given to Kryon, well, why don't you just tell us everything? Why make us go through this? The human said. And our answer was, if we did that, we might as well just turn on the lights and everybody goes home. In other words, there are secrets here. The meaning of life for humanity is to seek its own light level, and thereby, by itself, with free choice, to raise the vibration of this planet, the solar system, and all things around it that you don't even know. There is a plan, there is a process, there's a reason. You have passed this marker that we keep talking about, that is the shift. And things are starting to change. And part of what is changing is how we communicate with you. You cannot even imagine my side of the veil, because it is not in your reality. It never really was for you to imagine. Not as a human. It's not even in your Akash. So how can I tell you what it's like to communicate with Spirit? You know what it's like from your side. What do you think it's like from God's side? First of all, you should know this. True communications. That is from Spirit to you. True communications. That'll end up with you making action and having decisions and knowing and being and feeling like that there is guidance. True communication does not come from your brain. Not really even from your heart. It comes through intuition. The intuition is a product of many things, including your pineal, but your higher self is involved, but your brain is not. And yet you are almost always working with your brain. It's normal. It's absolutely, it's normal for you to do that. Totally. So how can we communicate with you? From our perspective, the communication is always there. It lays on you until you can figure it out for yourself on how to receive what is being given. Dear ones, there are humans who say that I've asked and I've asked and I've asked, but I'm just not getting answers. I want to tell you that the answers press on you. They're just a veil away. from our perspective, just a veil away. Good guidance, good wisdom. And sometimes the guidance is be patient, be wise, wait. Sometimes it's do it now. And you don't get it. And the reason? Because you've got to create a space for the intuition. If the intuition is that which carries the message, how do you create intuition? You could do it right now if you wanted. Disengage from all thinking. You go to a place that's so precious and so beautiful. It's that place often between waking and sleeping, where your brain is not telling you what you're afraid of or what you're hearing or how to figure out what you're doing. A total and complete disengagement. Did you know that science can measure this? Those which measure the brain's action can tell when you go into a certain state where you're no longer really thinking. You're on automatic. And it's almost like a giant release. And it's not that difficult if you'll allow it. It's a time where you feel you're out of 3D just for a moment, and you're open to anything. A moment where your brain is not actively telling you what's next, and you don't have the intellect working. It's a full release. The frustrating thing for you, dear ones, is the intuition then will flow in, but it seems like a spark. It doesn't linger. Your consciousness is used to giving directions and receiving them in 3 dimensions. You can even write them down, but not these. They come fast. Sometimes you wonder, what was that? What did I just receive? What did I just hear? And the 3-dimensional part of you is so distraught that you didn't get it, that you never think of something. You sit there and say, Dear Spirit, thank you for the message. Give it to me again. I'm sitting here. If it's now or if it's later, let me fully understand it. Give it again, and then disengage and just be. Sometimes that means going to a place where there's running water or breeze blowing, where you can truly mask the intellect, all of those things that get in the way. From our perspective, the truth, the guidance, the joy, the love, the compassion is always being pushed to you. Dear ones, we are biased in love. You ask questions and we are in the process of answering them constantly. And those times are when you can get on that train of consciousness and pick them up with your intuition. Beautiful it is when you get it. And then some of you have figured that out. And you try to get to that state as often as you can. And there are those of you who are very good at it, and some who are still struggling. From our standpoint, there are so many answers. The timing of the answers are difficult for you. Sometimes the answers are, there are no answers. How do you interpret that? If you get intuition that says, there are no answers, what does it feel like? I'll tell you, it feels like this: sit and be loved. Dear Spirit, I have to have an answer because something's going to happen. Sit and be loved. Dear Spirit, I don't think you understand. You see, I'm in 3D, others are in 3D. There's this and this and this, and if I don't answer and have this, I won't know what to do. Sit and be loved. And if any of you are in that situation, I'll tell you from our standpoint what's going on, so you know. So many of your questions involve other people, other humans around you. Whether it's financial, whether it's personal, whether it's love, whether it's business, it involves other humans. Let me ask you, do you know what they're all doing and all thinking? And the answer is, of course not. Spirit does. Are you starting to understand this? So here you are saying, I have to know, and we are saying, when players are in place, doing what they are doing, we will have advice that will be a solution for you. But until that happens, you are dearly loved. A human will get an answer that is a non-answer and be frustrated and stop asking, as though the answer was no. Never understanding. It's always in progress. Always in progress. Years ago, we told you a metaphor. We give it again and again and again. When you start asking God to guide you in this and that and so on, it's almost like you purchased a ticket for the train. And you tear off the ticket and you hold it in your hand. And that's not an answer. That's a ticket for an answer. The train will take a while. The train is you, it's those around you, it's circumstances, it's things in the future that are building, that will take place. Synchronicity, sometimes a full change will happen. And the question will even change, but dear ones, the ticket remains the same. You stand at the station, waiting for the solution, and it will be there. How many of you are impatient tapping your toe? Or how many of you are willing to sing? Sing the song of patience. Thank you, God, for loving me enough to give me the ticket. Can't you feel the ticket? There are so many, so linear are you, you don't feel the ticket. You think it's no. You just don't understand that the timing is the key quite often to all these things. From our perspective, we gave you the ticket as soon as you ask. That's communication. This is a new energy. Why not see this differently? Why not relax with what the issues are that you have been asking God for? Some of you are saying, well, I have something that doesn't involve anybody else. It's me. It's a health issue. Well, I'll talk about that next. Because that's you and you. But that's you and trillions of you. I'll explain that in a moment as well. It's always about the timing. But from our perspective, dear ones, you are known and loved and seen, and the ticket is issued. When you go to that place where you can start feeling our presence and knowing it's real and starting to commingle it with the three-dimensionality of your personality, that's the definition of mastery. There are masters in the room, there are masters listening to this who can walk both sides of the veil, understanding who they are on the other side and who they are on this 3D side that I speak to now. It's called balance. And that is a person who doesn't complain because they understand situations that heretofore they didn't. They see beyond what is there. They see the heart of others, even those they don't understand or make them angry. They see it all. That is the person. Who are you becoming? You are becoming. You are becoming. You leave this place softer than you came. If you're listening. If you're listening. This message comes to you through your ears. But the third language is also sitting upon all of you right now. That is the catalytic language of love. It speaks to you in a different way. Some of you are getting messages that are not anything like what I'm giving through my partner's voice. That's intuition starting to speak to you because you've disengaged. Dear ones, that is your gift. That's your legacy. That's a promise. That's how we communicate with the ticket. I'll be back. But until then, I want you to be still for a moment. Just for a moment. And disengage all the stress, the watch, the troubles, the fears, the appointments. Just for a moment. And see what you get. Because we're ready to deliver. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Some people have asked about channeling. They say, where is the man when the channel is in progress? We say he steps away. And that is the truth. Spirit does not take over his body. Through years of practice, he has learned to surrender and step away. And what then comes through him is what you hear now. But in the beginning, it was not this way at all. There was no confluence of syntax. It was very bad English. Spirit would show him things, and then he would remember them and echo them back in channel. It wasn't as it is now. Now he has that which is the messages from the other side of the veil, as pure as they can be through a human. The human controls this completely. And it never, ever is good enough for him. There's always more. And dear human beings, this is the way it is. You do want more. No matter what you experience with Spirit, there's this feeling that there is more. And literally, it comes from you. It's a handshake. The more your consciousness aligns with the esoterics, that which you call God, the more you like it. You sit in a building originally constructed as a church. And in the drawings, the illustrations, sometimes the statues, you have the glowing around the head, which you have called the halo. This is a symbol for a human being who is in touch, for a human being who wants more, who perhaps has experienced the euphoria of God inside. The ancients had it. The modern day has it. It's intrinsic with humans and God. I want to talk about healing And this one is difficult. What makes it difficult is the perception. I now tell you what we see, not what you see. I give you a truth which is sometimes difficult to give you. Sometimes it flies in the face, literally, of the logic of your world. But we have to give it to you because it speaks of a magnificence that you should know of. The human body is working approximately at 30 to 35% of how it was designed. You heard it right. Free choice of consciousness through eons of time with humanity has actually lowered it, because consciousness drives health. Consciousness that is low lets in disease. Consciousness which is low alters that which your DNA is asked to do. That is starting to shift. So many times we've said it before. What this shift is really about is humans beginning to graduate and evolve. And the evolution is the evolution of consciousness and DNA and cellular structure to become more efficient. All of you are perfect. Hard to imagine. And we've said this before, you don't know it, you don't believe it. It's almost like every single one of you is a Class A jet plane, and that all you know how to do, or was taught you could do, is cruise up and down the runway. That's all. And all the rest of it has always been there. The evolvement of humanity will then be that which is maturing in wisdom, integrity, compassion, in all of the things that will come to you that will create a planet eventually without war. I've said it before, a planet where when you look back, everything before 2012 will be called the barbarian age. When you start to mature, you look back on yourselves and you think, who were we? How could that be? The human cellular structure, yours, is designed for 900 years. 900. Just as some of your scriptures will point out for those masters who lived that long. I know you think it was probably a typo in Scripture. It was true. That is how long a body can last, because it rejuvenates itself. It repairs itself. It keeps going. Yours does it poorly, but not forever. And that is changing. You're going to see lifespans increase, and it will not be because of science. It will be because of consciousness. Starting to learn the things that you should have known before, but that were blocked. Healing. Because of these things, dear ones, there are so many who need so much. What does Spirit see with the human being who is sick? Spirit often sees a human who is desperate, who's down on their knees praying, God heal me, God heal me, God heal me, God heal me. You want to know what Spirit sees? Spirit sees an absolutely 100% healthy human with a fog of consciousness around him. A consciousness of lack of self-worth, Akashic insecurity, problems and stress caused by so many things that have nothing to do with his biology. That's what Spirit sees. And Spirit sees a human who hasn't figured it out, who comes to their knees and prays, God heal me, God heal me. Let me give you a hint. Healers in this room, healers don't heal, they balance. And if you could rewrite this scenario, the human being would not be on their knees begging God for healing. They would be trying to understand alignment with the cosmos. They'd understand that all disease is the fog of consciousness. It's inside the human being. It wasn't produced that way. That's not how you were born. And you didn't catch it. You built it. And there would be those who say that's impossible because the biological engine creates this and does this. Dear ones, you don't work well. And you can. Spirit sees you as one who is perfect, and Spirit wants to deliver the message to you. You can't hear it when you're in fear. Dear ones, what have you got that you would like to heal today? You can't hear anything from Spirit if you're in fear. We may give you the ABCs of how you can literally pick yourself up and live another 25 years without this disease, and you're afraid. So you're not getting it. So what have I just said? That old energy surrounds most of you, even today, an energy of doubt. You go to the meeting and you hear these words, and you go home. And you say to somebody who will listen, wow, I'd sure like to understand more about that. You know, I don't really think it's for me. Because, you know, I've got this and I've got that. And you know, my mom did too, and you know, my father did. And you know it's built in, don't you? You know, my family carries it, don't you? And every one of those words is heard by your own biology, and it agrees with it on your way to passing over. And that is the truth. And that brings up the second part. How can we possibly give you messages of profound healing when you don't believe it for the first time, when you claim that you're sick? Did you ever think of that? What you say has so much energy. It is you. You define yourself with every word. If we said, who are you? If your neighbor says, who are you? And tell me about your life, what would you say? I am, your name goes here, and I'm sick. You just defined it. Your body will do it. And the fog of old energy will circle you till your last breath. Don't you think it's time to change that? And you can. Did you know you can change it as you sit here? If you cognize what I'm saying, Spirit sees you as perfect. And the only thing that makes you less perfect that's going on in your cellular structure right now is what you have created through a myriad of experiences, that of the Akash of past experiences carried into this life and ironed so that you will always have it to hang on the closet and look at. That's what you do. What if I made an invitation right now? Shut the closet. You might say something inside right now to your own biology. It's time to claim my magnificence. I'll tell you, there are those right now who are going to leave this meeting and they're going to feel differently than they ever have before. They're going to wonder, what happened? What was there? There will be healings today in here. I know this because I know who's here. I know what you brought with you. I know what is possible. I'm telling you, why don't you just leave it here? this fog of self-created disease, uncertainty, and unbalance can be cleared totally by light. How many of you are willing to generate light right now and visually see all of these things cleared? Like the fog goes away, the sun comes out, you can see everything. It's a new day. And you go away and you know, I've been healed. Sound too good to be true. I will tell you, what do you think happens to a human being who goes into so much release all at once that they get it instantly? This has happened over and over. It's almost like all of the fog is just simply cleared and lifted and gone. And you call it spontaneous remission. It's a miracle, isn't it? There are stories of the Master who walked this planet years ago, touching humans, making the blind see, the sick were healed. And I want to give you another perception. That Master, who had his DNA working at about 80%, his message was clear to this planet. In this room, I'll state it. I am the Son of God, and so are you. And so are you. And what he did was to touch those and took their fog away. And for a moment or two, they were just like him. And they saw what he saw. And instantly, all of the things left. Instantly. Is it a miracle from the Master, or is it the message that's a miracle to the human who healed him and herself? Let's be touched today by the Master. Was this not the meaning of this building? You're a good place. A good place for this. Really good place for this. I know who's here. I know why you've came. What are your troubles? Why don't you be touched right now? To the degree that the fog is gone, it's cleared. And what you will have is the way God sees you. Perfect. Living a long life. Helping people around you. Old soul, we need you to stay. We need you to stay. Did you hear that? That's why you're alive. To be balanced, to help those around you know what it looks like to have the light and not be afraid of life. Not to be one who is doomed because history said you were. There is somebody being touched right now. Right now. Oh, it's beautiful, dear ones. Can you feel this? Can you feel what's happening here? Did you really think you were coming to a healing meeting today? Maybe not. But somehow, through synchronicity, you ended up in the middle of one. And here you are. Some of you carry grief. It's a disease. Grief is a disease. It keeps you down. It beats you up. The joy is gone. It's one of the worst diseases. You'll die early. Let's clear that. We know what took place to give you the grief that you have. Dear ones, God is so much in love with you. Let the sun come out in your life right now. Some need to forgive that which is yourself. That is what you need to do for yourself. Let that fog clear. It can, it should, it will. And you have help. With the intent of this will come results. Remember the first channel? With the intent of this will come results. You're not alone. Start the ball rolling and stand back. And stop defining yourselves less than magnificent and healthy and pure and light. That's how God sees you. That's our perspective. That's the perspective on this side of the veil. Perfect human beings slogging through their own process. It's a beautiful message. It's a light one, really. Something you can do right now. No steps to climb. No suffering required. Only acknowledgement of who you are. I'll be back. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It is the fourth channel of the day, and we continue the series. God's reaction, if that's possible. Attitude, if that's possible. Partnership, possible with humanity. There are so many questions about God that cannot be answered. They can't be answered because there is no possible way that the human mind can conceive it. Try as you might, with all that you have, it's simply not conceivable. Questions are asked, well, what is the mind of God? What does God want? Who is God? Those questions cannot be even asked. There is no who. There is no place where God is. There is no mind of God. That is a human concept. There is no consciousness, really, of God, because God is not a human. But there is so much that we can tell you. Dear ones, you should know that God is a caring God. And that is because of one thing, what God does have, that you really would understand, is love. We said it before just recently, that the little child may not have an intellect or a language. The little child cannot say anything, because there's no language yet to say it. And yet when you smile and hug the child, oh, there is communication instantly. There are some things that pass through the veil between humans and God. It is so beautiful. I'll tell you, one of them is joy, laughter, and of course love, benevolence, compassion. There is no language needed for these. There is no consciousness needed for these. There's no who or what or where needed for these. And so when God looks at humans, God sees individuals, not humanity. God works with souls. As many as there are, trillions, if need be. Just like he works with one, just like she works with one. God has no gender. God is not a male or a female. God is not a parent. God is not a father. If I took you on a trip to see God, you wouldn't have to go very far. There is no place where God exists, because God is in the biggest of the big and the smallest of the small. Big enough to create the universe, small enough to be in your heart. Way beyond anything that any human can conceive. There is no construct of God. There is no pleasing or displeasing the Creator of all things. Because God does not have a human mind. But the thing that translates so well is love. Let me tell you, dear ones, no matter what you learn this day, no matter what you think you know, no matter what you've come in conflict with, all you have to do is say, Dear Spirit, I don't understand this or that. I don't understand the fog. I don't understand this. What to do next? But I love you. I trust that which is in me that is part of Spirit. That, dear ones, is what God wants, if you want to say what God wants. For it creates joy and the bridge that starts everything. If you could ask yourself or ask me, what is it truly that would please God? We would say, well, there is no pleasing or displeasing. God is God. What does God want? There is no want. There is no on and on. And yet God is biased in love. And that's the answer. Is to start loving that inside you, which is God, which is Spirit, which is the Creator. No language needed. No intellect needed. No where, why, what, or how needed. That will start a process that brings you into alignment for the intuition that you've asked for, to start the processes that we've spoken of this day. We've talked about the bias of God when you start awakening, and is it real or is it not real? We've talked about the communication, how God wants to synchronize. Wants, there is that word again. The bias is always there. The bias of love. If you want to know what God wants, if you want to use that terminology, what does love want? You look at your child for the first time with new eyes. First time, the eyes meet yours. What do you want? Mother, what do you want? And there is no want. There is an overflowing love. Perhaps with tears rolling down your eyes to see that creature that has come from you, that is new, and all it wants is so helpless. All it wants is to be hugged and loved. What do you want? Nothing. You just want to love. That's all you want. That's God. There's no agenda, is there, when you look into that set of eyes? No, really. You're so grateful. They're beautiful. You're just so grateful. The benevolence overflows. The compassion for the little one overflows. That's who God is. What are you going to do with that? Right now. Standing outside looking in to the human being. Love is the answer. It's the answer because the answer solves the questions of how I do this, how do I do that, how do I go here or there, how do I listen, how do I turn into the new frequency, how? The answer? Disengage, dear ones, and love. It's like the glue that starts to put together the things that don't make sense. There are those who will leave today, who've heard all of this, listened to the meditations. There's really nothing coalescing. Perhaps you're not sure what you've seen. There have been humans here for the first time and they will go away and say, well, this is all for children. I'm smarter than this. Did you try love? Is that for children only, or is that for adults? Love is for all. And that is the bias of God. Why won't you let God love you? Have you thought of that? There are so many who walk away and say, it's pretty talk. But they won't let God in. You won't let God in. Perhaps you're afraid that it'll feel too good. That perhaps it will be a habit you cannot break. Being loved by the Creator of the universe, because you are part of it as well. The whole creation, the whole idea, is part of the plan. And you are part of that plan. You are a piece of all of it. Some humans are afraid even to acknowledge that. They say it can't be that way. We've got to be separate. We've got to be apart. I'll tell you what separates you from God and the love of God the most is lack of self-worth. You don't believe you're worthy. Dear ones, can I say this? That the indigenous didn't have a problem with worthiness at all. They allied with the spirits of the trees, of the sky, intuitively and naturally, and you can't. And that's because you've been trained not to. Whether it was by institutions or by adults in your life, the training sticks, doesn't it? Did you ever think about that? You have nothing to do with that. That's not you at all. That's something you were told. That's just something you were told. Perhaps it was being told by somebody who you really honored or believed in. It makes it hard to dismiss it, doesn't it? It's almost like a betrayal of somebody who told you that. I'll tell you, whoever that was who told you that, if they're on the other side of the veil, listen to what they say now. They say, we didn't know. We didn't know. Forgive us. We didn't know. You are worthy. You are worthy. You are worthy. You are worthy. You're worthy of being loved. You're worthy of being healed. You're worthy of walking out with a smile. Some will leave this place and say, I didn't understand any of this. Not really. I love that when that happens. Because that means you can dismiss the intellect and you can say it felt good. For you, I'll say, this or something better. Dear God, this or something better. Dear Spirit, I love you. I have no idea what to do. I don't really understand anything esoteric. It just felt good. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. There is no steps that you must climb to be loved by God. All you have to do is get out of your way. That is communication, is it not? And so that is how we see you. Perfect, healthy, ready to evolve, and we're in love with you. That is the concept we have been trying to give you for years. And the opposition doesn't like it. They want rules in between. And dear ones, the rules come from the human mind, the human structure. It wants God to have a face, live in a certain place, go to the store, all the things that humans do, all the dysfunctions that are human. There are those who want to place that upon the Almighty Creator of all things. And that's just because humans do that. So, for you, spiritual common sense, who is God? There's no who. There just is. Where is God? There is no where. It's everywhere. The love of God is everywhere. In every single molecule and atom. Only the difference is you're a piece of that. Therefore, you have an affinity. You have an alignment with it. You can feel it. And that is why you know that when you die, there is no death. That the biology leaves, but the soul is forever. Because you know you're part of it. So why not just relax?